last 2.5 weeks, he started having some blurriness in one of his eyes. Of course, he didn't say anything initially. You know, he's kind of a tough sucker, and it's progressively been concerning to him. So after the game, he went through some scans, went through quite a bit of medical work, and he felt, as well as the medical team, that it was in his best interest to step away. And there's a stress level, obviously, that takes place that can take its toll, and certainly at his age and with the condition. So I know he's gotten the treatment he's needed, and he'll continue to monitor that. But I would say this, because I didn't know him. I always knew of him, and we hired him mid-season in New Orleans. But it's not often that assistant coaches get into the Hall of Fame. And I'm just saying, if there was, he's one of those top special teams coordinators that certainly, if you look at our numbers in 2 years relative to where we've come, he's done a tremendous job here. So we'll miss him. Certainly we'll stay in touch. And I think he's already issued a statement. With that, back to our schedule. Today was, a normal work day. Any questions?
Mike, do you move any resources around special teams?
Well, this has been in place. All right, let's go back. The plan was 1 year, and then Ben, who's coordinated before, and Chris, that plan was in place. And then after last season, I actually went in and saw Greg and said, hey, why don't you meet with him and see if you can talk him into coming back. And just, he doesn't have to come back until training camp. And so Greg's a good salesman. And so that went well. But the plan was in place when I first got hired, relative. Look, Mike and Ben had worked together before, and we knew that Ben would be taking over those duties. And so it actually was extended, call it half a season.
Sean, do you think that competitively right now, are you guys kind of in a, if it doesn't kill us, it just makes us stronger mode?
Well, I think you have to be. I put on a film this morning, all right, and now I'm going to go back and date a lot of you. I'm a young coach at Indiana State, and we take a bus ride to Kansas State, and we stop halfway at Columbia, Missouri, I think. Holiday Inn, 2 to a room, pizzas. The next day, Saturday, game day, we get in, but we're not playing till Saturday night. And we're playing an opening game. It's about 90-some degrees in Manhattan, Kansas. This is a young Coach Snyder, all right, Bob Stoops, Mike Stoops. And we hang in there in this game, and we score late to go up 1. And it's the first year in college football where the rules changed, where the defense could actually score on a 2-point try. Now, when you're up 1 with, I think there was 3 minutes, 28 seconds, we went for the 2-point play and threw an interception, middle of this end zone, and the Kansas State player took it back 107 yards. And now the hard part about that, obviously it was devastating. It was hot. And then, 14 hours on a bus straight home. The next clip of film, I'm at the Eagles, and it's my first year in the league, 1997, Cowboys, Monday Night Football. This is big for me. I'd just been a college coach. And we got the ball. Ty Detmer takes us down the field. I think we hit Freddie Solomon on a play that goes out of bounds actually right down to the 4-yard line. 3 seconds, we're going to kick the game winner. And Tommy Hutton just has trouble with the snap, and tough law. I mean, And then the next clip was Denver. You know, we hit the pass to Brandon Cooks, and we're going to kick this PAT and win this game, and Justin jumps through. And then the next clip was the Minneapolis Miracle, and there's a sequence there. And then the next clip was the no call. And the point of the film, and I said to him, I said, I don't have enough time here to show you all the good clips. But just like in life, man, we are going to have some, and then we get up and we start fighting again. And so there was just a message behind that. Every one of us here has that film in some way, shape, or form, whether it's personally, occupationally. And so I think the response, and look, the team we're playing is coming off a tough loss, and that you hope when your career's done, your film is longer on the other end than that end. And so, but I think the response, we had a good practice today, real good. So we get ready for this team. It's an entirely different type team relative to what they do schematically, how they run the ball, what they do defensively than the team we just played. So we've got to lock in and be ready for a different type of an opponent.
You mentioned Justin. He's coming back. Obviously,
Yeah.
So much here. How tough is that?
That was difficult. I mean, holy cow. I remember him coming out in the draft. Look, I was just with him a season, but it's always difficult when you're dealing, especially with a veteran, someone who's played so well for the organization. And, those are never easy decisions.
Sean, what did you like out of Marvin Mims, using him as a running back? And have you ever done that before?
Well, I think one of the things that we are tasked to do sometimes is like, are we missing anything from an attribute? When you watch him return, you see him put his foot in the ground and you see his speed. And so I went in, just talking to the offensive staff, let's come up with a tag that puts him, we've seen this before with different type of players, with whether it's been Debo or Cordell but he gives us a different speed element. And so there's certain running schemes that he would be very comfortable with. And then there's others that, and then the other thing, what's interesting is you send him in the game with two other receivers, a tight end, and a fullback, and you think like you're in base, but you're getting a nickel defense because they're looking at it as three receivers, a tight end, and Burton's playing halfback. So it was just creating a package that some weeks we can expand on. It was just trying to find ways to get him touches within the framework of what we do. I told him last week, you're not changing positions, but there are some things that I think that he can help us with, and we'll try to look at it weekly.
Sean, Bo Nix has obviously been showing growth every week. How much of another step did he take going against that hostile crowd in Kansas City and then leading that late drive, obviously?
Yeah, I think. Look, I think you're right. There are these steps. There'll be some more adversity, but there is a poise with him. I think his teammates in the huddle talk about it. The third down play was significant because right at that moment, then we controlled everything, the clock, the game. And I think it was funny after the game, you're going across the field and I see Andy and a few of the other guys and I see Patrick and known him, and he just turned to me and said, you got one. And I think he told Bo, hey, we're going to have a lot of good games. And that's something coming from him. And so we continue to look at the things that he does well and try to feature those things as he progresses into some of the things that he's going to need to do But yeah, we're really encouraged.
Those theaters replace the field at the stadium since last
Pat just told me so.
Is that something that you need, or is it just all about safety?
I think, I don't know. You'd have to ask Greg, or meaning our field has been in good shape. I don't know what's taken place since the last one. The one thing I do know, if Greg feels like it's not just to his liking, then he's not afraid to do it. And so I literally just found out, and so outstanding.
You've talked before about the Ellis family, Jonah
Yeah.
playing against Jonah. Can you speak to the football character that you talked about?
Yeah, look, I know a large family. Obviously, the father, I've done this long enough. I can recall coaching against their father, and then we drafted Caden in New Orleans. We're on the clock. We're one team away from being on the clock, and we're going to take his brother. But, man, we're hoping I think Atlanta, in fact, was at the pick ahead of us. And I turned to George. I said, Fontenot, Terry, who's the GM, was working with us then. Terry's going to draft the brother. I know it. And they drafted another player. And then we were excited, obviously, to make our selection. And then I got a text right away from Caden. I won't tell you what it said. But, I would say the exposure with Caden really helped us understand the football mindset, as it pertained to the next pick. And so now when we drafted Caden, he was playing a little bit more of an edge. He's now playing inside, but then he still is a pressure player. Like, if you said which of the linebackers pressures the most or blitzes the most, he's the one. That doesn't mean the others don't, but he's a very good pass rusher, and he's really transitioned to a really good inside linebacker, and so proud for him.
As you get Josh Reynolds sort of work back in, is it all about a hand for him? You said he was sort of shaken up after. Is there?
Yeah, so his clocks, they all have a clock. We began his today, and it's just getting back into the, football mindset, and so it's good having him back on the field.
With Bo, it's easy for us to kind of look week over week and evaluate it. You haven't had a rookie quarterback start for you, and your metrics I'm sure are different, but are you enjoying kind of your own progress report week over week and seeing that growth?
Yeah, I enjoy coaching, and then it's always, I think, it's always good to get to know each personality is different, and over the years, if you went through all the different quarterbacks, they have different personalities, and so learning about them, what's important. And I'm not even talking about football. I'm just saying, and then, so yeah, that it has been, because you're right. In other words, a lot was said leading up to the draft. We just had never invested a first-round pick in a quarterback during that time frame, and so I know how the odds and the percentages and all those things factor in, and so you really, want to get it right, and so there's, sometimes back in 2006 when I first got to New Orleans, this was before Drew was released, we had the second pick of the draft, and we were spending a ton of time on Cutler and Leinart and Vince Young at Texas, and man, just versus, do we get someone maybe that can hold the fort, and do we have the grade that suggests they belong there? And so oftentimes it's a position that's at a premium. So sometimes, well, oftentimes, you pay more for that, and when you select them. So it's been energizing, and especially with the youth of this team. So I enjoy it.
Coach, on Monday, you put the blame on the coaches for that final
Yeah,
goal. Is that something that you can teach better technique to Alex, or do you need to make a
No, I think it's just I felt sick watching it, and I felt like, hey, that's on us. Like, in other words, technique, and then also, hey, are we asking the right players to do the right things? And so, Zach Streif, who played forever played in that position, and he's someone, after watching it, look, every one of us felt as coaches we let the players down, and that we needed to see that, correct that, and and that's difficult when that happens. I mean, you as a coach, but that's how we felt.
Coach, you guys are 3-0 against NFC South teams this season.
Oh gosh, why'd you tell me that?
Do you have a little extra leftover competitive fire when you see
I-
these particular teams?
I don't think so. It's a fair question. There's been so many changes. Atlanta's new, offensively and defensively. Carolina is new. Tampa, certainly with Todd. But I don't think you might know some personnel, but I don't think that's. The New Orleans thing was different, but I don't think with the other three, they're just the next team, and you dive into the scheme, and you dive into the players and who does what well. And so I think that would be my answer.
Sean, when you look at Atlanta's offense, do you run into movies where it's 1 and 1A?
Well, yeah, I think we all have been conditioned to a 1 and a 2, and I get it. They're both different type of receivers, completely. And so then you deal with the tight end, and we haven't even talked about the runners. So I think they're different type of players, and I think that the trick is, how you want to defend them. Are you putting Surtain one direction, Riley all of that goes into the game planning, but they're entirely different relative to their skill sets.
What do you think about Bijan Robinson?
Man, they're running the ball extremely well. I think about at 140 yards per game clip. And again, the background is the running game. And some of it's coming from pistol, some of it under center. Kurt's getting rid of the ball on time. This is a team that comes off a tough loss, but has had some real good wins. And Raheem's done a really good job coming into that program and bringing some energy, and it's reflective in their record. So relative to their offense, you're getting kind of a McVay disciple, the wide zone. But he does a lot of things, well. He's someone that can catch the ball out of the backfield if you're not careful. And so he's an extremely talented player.